As anxieties mount over the state of affairs in the country, new research by the Institute of Race Relations points decisively to what the government's priorities should be, which is creating jobs, growing the economy and cutting corruption and improving schools. Ahead of President Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address tomorrow, the Institute of Race Relations has identified the risks that are facing the country. We talked to Marius Roodt. He is the head of campaigns at the Institute for Race Relations, and he joins me now live in studio. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through. As you may have seen there on the clip, that all eyes on the president tomorrow as he delivers the State of the Nation address. Let's talk about the expectations really of our people ordinarily on the ground.
Well, I think one of the things people will expect is the president talk about things to grow the economy and in turn increase the number of jobs in South Africa. We saw the recent GDP growth numbers come out recently, which were frankly shocking. I mean, there was a negative 3% decline in South Africa's GDP compared to the previous quarter. And we've also seen the recent job numbers, which I think it might actually be the highest rate of unemployment ever in South Africa's history, or certainly the highest has been in recent times. 27% of people are unemployed using the strict definition and closer to 40% using the expanded definition. So those are some very concerning numbers, and I think that's probably what the president will need to focus on, and what I think ordinary people will be looking to him to talk about.
Yes, indeed. Of course, as you said, with that unemployment rate of 27.6%, people want to hear more about the creation of jobs. But also, according to your research, they also have their preferences as to how people should be appointed to the different positions.
Well, what a recent research that we did came out, it's called Uniting the Middle. It's part of our Hope reports, where we look at the state of race relations in South Africa. And what we found is majority of South Africans said that merit should be the main reason that where people are appointed. Although close to 60% of people said, although merit should be the main reason to appoint people, people who were previously disadvantaged should be given special training to ensure that they do manage to succeed in their jobs and so on. So I think that probably points to ordinary people wondering if the, policies like black economic empowerment have worked for ordinary people. I think one could make the argument that perhaps they haven't worked if 27% of the country is unemployed and if we're seeing negative growth rates in the country at the moment. So that's maybe where we need to relook at things and maybe see where we can change things to ensure that we get the economy growing again and get more people into jobs.
Fighting corruption and also improving education, as I said on my introduction, also forms a greater part of what people are talking about.
Yeah, but I think those are also two things that are holding South Africa back. Education is something that, education, as we know, is a key to getting into the job market, and you don't even need to get a degree. People, it's been shown, is if you finish school, you've got a very good chance of managing to get into the job market, and the higher your qualification, the less likely you are to be unemployed. We've also seen with corruption, one can make the argument that's what happened in the Zuma years with corruption and state capture is part of the reason we're seeing that our economy is growing or actually shrinking at the moment, and that can be linked to our very high levels of unemployment.
So, as you said, the report also looked into the state of race in South Africa. We've had a number of racial incidents. You looked into this issue of race relations as well. But it's quite amazing that many black people, about 64% of the black respondents to your research, think that race relations have actually improved.
But I think race relations have improved. If we look at how things were in 1994, I think it'd be very hard to say that race relations haven't improved since 1994. And I think although we do hear about racial incidents often in the media, I think it's one of those incidents where, because they are actually so rare, that's why we hear about them. Somebody like Adam Katsavelos, who thought it was okay to use that word in Greece. We saw what's happened to
Momberg as well.
Vicky Momberg. These are two people in space of 2 years, and we can see being racist now has serious social and other consequences for people.
But these are the only reported cases. We don't know if there's a lot that go unreported as well. So where do you base your the conclusion that the relations have improved since 1994?
Well, that's according to what we asked people. Asked them, do you feel race relations have improved since 1994? And you can see the vast majority of people did say they feel they have improved. That's not to say, of course, that racism doesn't exist in South Africa or it's not a problem, just that we do feel since 1994 things between the races have got much better.
Now, staying with race-related matters, we had an incident earlier this year in January at Laar School, Swayestraneke in the Northwest. And it cost us there, really. You also spoke to the respondents about what our preferences as parents are towards who is the teachers to our children as well. Talk to us about that.
Well, most of the people, I think the respondents were 85% of people said they didn't care what race their child's teacher was, as long as that teacher was good, which I think also shows how people have moved on. Most people don't care what the person looks like who's teaching their child. They just want to ensure that their child receives a good education, whether the person who's the kid's teacher is black, white, Indian, or whatever the case may be. So I think that's also an indication that if you'd asked that question 20 years ago, I think you probably would have got very different responses.
But maybe just for interest's sake, where exactly did you talk to the respondents?
This was a random sample. We phoned over 1,000 people. It was demographically representative, so it was 80% of the respondents were black people, for example. Also regionally representative, so X amount of people who have been from Gauteng or Western Cape or rural or urban areas. So it's a demographically representative sample of South Africans.
Okay. So back to the important issue tomorrow, as I said in Parliament, from your research really and your survey, what's the greater sense that you're getting from the people on the ground, ordinary South Africans?
Well, I think what ordinary South Africans want is jobs. And once we can create jobs, then other issues that are facing South Africa, things such as poverty, will actually start being reduced. Because unemployment is actually the greatest threat facing South Africa at the moment.
Yeah, but are you getting any sense of anxiety maybe?
Yes, there are many people
regarding the state of affairs in the country?
People are upset about what's with the state of the economy and with struggling to find jobs and so on. And so I think that is what the president has to focus on tomorrow, how to get this economy moving and how to get more people into jobs.
But are they hopeful? I mean, a lot of people were saying that with Ramaphosa, they think that things will eventually get better. Are they hopeful at the end of the day?
I'm not sure as many people are as hopeful as they were. I think a very good indication of how people have lost faith, firstly in the president and in the greater political system, is that the ANC received its lowest ever share of the votes in last month's election, and was also the lowest turnout we've ever had in a post-apartheid election. So I think it shows that people are becoming more and more hopeless. They've not even prepared to go to the ballot to make their voice heard. I think it does show that people are checking out of the political system, which does have some serious consequences possibly for South Africa down the line.
All right, I suppose we'll wait and see if their concerns will be addressed by the president tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming through.
No problem.
All right, well, there you have it. Marius Roodt, he's the head of campaigns at the Institute for Race Relations, really talking to us about the research which shows that there is some sense of anxiety amongst South African really regarding the state of affairs here in the country.